Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Free Advice Friday, where we are back to having guests on the program because I know that there is only so many times that you need to see me on the internet answering your questions over and over and over again. And so I've had the good fortune of reaching out to some wonderful people in my network and booking some really cool guests for a couple of upcoming installments of Free Advice Friday. So today we are welcoming onto the show Nadia Marshall, who's busy texting. Come on, Nadia, this is live TV here,
No,
for
no, no, no,
crying
no.
out loud. What are you doing over there?
I was making a social media post. I was posting on my stories that I was on Free Advice Friday, but
I
it'll wait.
can't believe
It'll
you
wait.
sitting there texting while we're trying to do a live stream here. This is going to be good, though. We're going to talk about lead generation, which is a very, very, very common topic amongst voice actors. More specifically, how the heck, what the heck, who the heck, where the heck, right? These are all of
All
the
the things.
questions. Yeah, all the things that we need to know about lead generation. And so we're going to be able to talk about some of that sort of stuff, and certainly going to be taking some questions from everybody who's joining in and watching the live stream as well. But tell us a little bit about your lead generation journey and what led you to deciding, you know what, maybe I can teach this stuff a little bit. Maybe I've learned a few things now over the way, and I can help some voice actors to be even more efficient with their lead generation.
Right. So I would probably say in the beginning, right? What a way to start the novel.
Once upon a
So
time, long, long ago.
I was starting to get into email marketing after taking Playbook, and when I was searching for these leads, because you start on your own at first.
Hmm?
And when I was getting to the point where I was like, all right, I want to start to hire somebody, I want to, see if I can outsource this. I ended up reaching out to some other opera singers who were looking for a little bit of extra work. And what I was doing was I was essentially training them. So I kind of created this very, very basic presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation, where I had little videos that showed, okay, here's how you would look through LinkedIn. Here's how you would look through Google. Here's how you would look through this. And I gave examples of what's right and what's wrong. And when we had our mastermind group that you founded in 2022, I had shared this with our mastermind group, being like, oh, if you want to train, if you want to send this to the people that you're training, or if you want to look at it yourself. And I remember everybody in the group was like, I don't know, Nadia, this looks like a course, like it's right here. And so after them, and then obviously after you kicking my butt, decided to finally
In a
take it
gentle
upon
and
me.
kind and loving sort of
Oh,
way, just to be
of
clear,
course.
yes.
Yeah. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. No violence. No violence. Uh, we decided, why not? Let's take that. There's clearly a need, and there is, you know, people are asking this in the forums, people are asking this in Facebook groups and on conferences and things. So there was a need. So I thought, okay, let's hop on the train and let's do it. So now I've created a course to help voice actors gain more efficiency, or also if they want to train somebody, they can send them this course, or they can take the course and then be able to train them however they want to go about doing it. But that's the reason for the course, and that is the genesis of the course.
I think the most shocking part of all of this to me is that there are all of these voice actors out there who got into voiceover who didn't want to do lead generation, and I don't understand why. What did you
Why?
thought you were just going to be in the booth recording all day? Nobody signed up to be a lead generator. I don't
No.
understand what happened. This has definitely been part of the evolution of the industry, and going from the agency model where you had an agent who found all the work for you. And then we disrupted the agency model with the online casting model, and then everything goes through an online casting site. And now we're disrupting that with our ability to just direct market, reach out to clients, have those personal relationships directly with them, remove middlemen, make the process easier. But a lot of voice actors aren't prepared for it, and so there is obviously a need for it. So for those of you that are watching, if you have a question that you would like to ask, this is, of course, an open Q&A forum. So just do me a favor, type a Q beside your question before you put it into the chat window. That way it'll pop out for me. It's a little bit easier for me to find, but you are certainly welcome to ask any questions that you have about lead generation. And between the two of us, I'm sure we can come up with some sort of genius answer to help you on your way. But I think it's interesting that, I mean, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so you found yourself in a position where I know how to do this, but I don't want to do this anymore. So let me put together a resource that I can teach my assistant how to do it. And then realizing, oh, wait a minute, if I can have a resource that can teach my assistant how to do it, then this resource could potentially teach anybody how to do it. So I'm assuming at this point, working with a virtual assistant is how you are doing the bulk of your lead generation now.
That's it, exactly, yes. So I have a lead generator who will find the leads for me, and then I will go through what we use a Google Sheet, and so if there are any particular, "Oh, that wasn't a great lead," then I can leave a comment, let him know, and then he can find some new ones for me, or I can tell him, "Hey, let's wait on the next batch because 'cause I'm still working through the ones you've given me." We can communicate that way. But yes, I am using a lead generator. Mhm.
Okay. So the course is just teaching lead generation though, or is there an aspect of here's how to do it yourself, or here's how
Yes.
to do it if you want to get somebody else to do it for you, here's how to train somebody else up to do it for you?
I feel like it's a little bit of both
Okay.
because, I mean, you could take it as the way of, "I'm just gonna do this myself,"
Yep.
or if you are, using a lead generator, maybe you already are familiar, like, "Oh, I already know things about LinkedIn, I already know things about Google." There's actually some stuff that you probably wouldn't know, but I
Mhm.
understand if you're like, "I wanna skip to the stuff I don't know."
Yep.
Then it really gives you some very, very advanced, very deep diving ways to look at things, plus things that I would assume your lead generator may not have access to, that only you have access to, that you can then be able to do it kind of in a more passive way, or you could do it on your own time, you could do it and see it more as like, I don't know, some people view other platforms as like, "Oh, I find this to be more enjoyable than some other platforms." So they could take the more enjoyable ones and then take the less
Yep.
enjoyable ones and leave that for the other person to take over. So,
I think for any voice actor, the ultimate end goal should be get somebody else to do this for me. It's
right.
not the most important thing that you as a voice actor need to be doing, but it's also, you got to be in a position where you can do that financially. I mean, it took me a while to work up to being at a point where I could hire a lead generator. So knowing
Right.
how to do it yourself is step one. And then once you know how to do it yourself really well, step two is get somebody else to do it for you. Just want to take a minute to say welcome, Phil watching, Roxanne, JP Brown is watching, Guy, Russian grammar. There's a bunch of people on now. If you do have a question that you would like to ask, feel free to type that question into the comments. Again, just put a Q beside it, and that way it pops out a little bit easier on the screen. It's easier for me to see. So here is the first question that we have. This one comes from Roxanne. How do I get the right email for the person I want to reach? I know that there are some different services out there. This is like literally the most frustrating and challenging aspect of lead generation, I think, is actually trying to find something other than the info at or hello
Right.
at or whatever. So what tips and tricks do you have for that?
So, I would use one of 2 tools. Whichever one you prefer. I know that you are a big proponent of Hunter.io, and I
Mhm.
was also very taken away. In fact, they've done some pretty interesting updates to it, and they've added some more features, which are kinda interesting. I do have one module that's solely dedicated to Hunter.io and Apollo.io. That is
Yep.
the other tool that I would use. I personally like to use Apollo.io myself. I have it right now, I'm using Chrome as my browser. I have it as a plugin.
Mhm.
So whenever I'm anywhere on the web, even if I am actively, let's say maybe I am actively email marketing, or maybe I'm just passively and I come across a potential lead, that way I have the plugin available where I then can be able to look through. So with Apollo, what is really fascinating about it, and it's actually kind of scary, but we're going to use it to our advantage, and
So
that's
it's
fine.
all technology.
Right, right. It's fine. This is the world we live in. But for our usage and our purposes, it's fine. What you can do is you can look through the company information, and then within there, you can scroll through and find your lead if you know who the lead is, or if you're just looking on your own cold, then you can find the lead that you think would be the best fit. You would then be able to see either their email or their phone number, and then they would have a little green check mark if it's been verified, and you can even see the sources through which it was verified. Hunter.io does the exact same thing where you can see, if you, with Hunter.io, you can either search through the name of the person at blank, or you can search through the company, And it can also show you verified by, these 3 sites or these 5 sites, and it will list them for you. So you can even check the validity of the verification of either of these 2 systems. So I would say, to sum it up, Hunter.io or Apollo.io would be my 2 tools to use for that, for finding the right email for your lead.
Hunter is, I mean, obviously I've been using that one for a long time. Apollo is interesting to me, though. I know it became very popular last year. A lot of people started talking a lot about Apollo,
Mhm.
and I originally signed up for it, but did absolutely nothing with it other than just signed up. But then if you go through, I guess their onboarding, right? If you go through their
Yes.
onboarding process, all of a sudden they're like throwing a whole bunch of credits at you. And so you can use those credits to start collecting email addresses. And so I have started playing around with Apollo a little bit more. And I think one of the things that I really like about Apollo is the ability to save searches and then get notifications when. So I've got like some e-learning searches that I've got saved, and I can get an email notification that'll pop up on my screen and say, a new lead has been added to your saved search for e-learning or something like that. So then I can pop back in and check it out. Bring this up on the screen here just so you can see. I mean, this is Hunter, and it's really easy. It's just domain level, right? So if I just type in markscottvoiceover.com and hit the button, it's going to pop up. There you go, mark at markscottvoiceover.com. Now, it's worth pointing out, this is not going to work every time.
Right.
And you will have a certain number of searches where the email may be blurred out. But if you click on the sources here, you can see these are all different websites that email is listed at. And so even if the email is blurred out here, you could try clicking directly onto one of these sources and doing a search.
Right.
And so you might be able to see where it's not blurred out. Sometimes it's pretty easy to figure out the email format as well, right? Is it first name at, is it first name dot last name or whatever? And if you can figure out that format, that certainly helps as well. But so that's Hunter, fairly straightforward. Rocket Reach is another one that works in a very similar fashion, right? And just
Mhm.
kind of doing domain level searches. But hopefully that gives you a couple of ideas, Roxanne, for how to find some email addresses. So let's see. Steve's got a question. I understand lead generation in general, but how do you find the best leads if you have a unique voice or style that isn't typical? Interesting.
Hmm.
So really, you got to figure your niche out, right?
Yeah, I'd say. Well, because then if you know your niche, then you can reach out to the right people. But I know that's hard because it's like the chicken and the egg, which
Yep.
one comes first. But I would say you never know who is going to find you unique, or you never know. Like I would say think outside the box geographically.
Hmm.
I would say go ahead and search for people outside of your region, maybe the country that you're currently in, and go look somewhere else. Because you might think to yourself, oh, well, I sound like this person and this person and this person on our agency roster or whatever. But someone in Romania might find you to be.
Exact right voice. Yeah. We lost your audio, Nadia. Looks like we lost your audio there, or at least I'm not hearing the audio and I'm not seeing a signal on the audio. I don't know if anybody else is noticing. Oh, I don't know if it's an internet connection issue there. Not sure. Might want to check into that. I'm not hearing you right now. Let's just jump to another question while we try to figure that out. Yeah, she cut off. Okay, so your audio cut off. Brad says, in your approach letter, do you refer them to your Pro Voice website, or do you attach your demo or MP3 or some other tactic? Are you back with us, Nadia? No, see, I'm still not getting your audio. So we may need to, I don't know if you may need to reboot or try to jump back in, jump back out or something, but it looks like we've lost your audio. I don't know if it's an internet connection or something going on there, but we've lost the audio on Nadia. Hey, this is live on the internet, folks. What are you going to do? Okay, everybody says, I can't hear you, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. All right, so maybe if you try to restart or something like that, and we'll see if we can jump back out, jump back in, and we'll see if we can pick it up. Brad, I'll answer your question while we try to figure out what's going on with Nadia's audio. So for me, generally speaking, in my email marketing, I want to drive traffic to the website. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, all of the information that they need about me is on the website. So everything that I could not include in my original email, because I'm trying to keep that email short and sweet, all the other information is on the website. And that goes to testimonials, a client list, other demos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to drive them to the website so they can find out everything. But the other reason for me that I want to drive them to the website is because unsolicited demos, or unsolicited attachments rather, are sometimes much more likely to trigger spam filters. And so I don't want to have emails that I'm sending going to spam because there's an attachment that wasn't supposed to be there or that a server is rejecting. So my play is get them to the website, get them to listen to the demos on the website. If I get a positive response from them, then when I get that positive response, at that point, I can then say, hey, would you like to have a copy of my demos that you can keep on file? And then I can have an opportunity to send those demos to them. And if I can send those demos to them and they know that they're coming, then they're much more likely to see them. So Nadia's going to jump off and try to jump back in again. Not sure what was going on there, but we lost her audio. So we'll see if we can get that sorted out. Hopefully we can get that sorted out. In the meantime, welcome to Free Advice Friday. Thank you, everyone, for jumping in, and we are talking lead generation today, and I am certainly happy to answer questions on lead generation as well while we wait for Nadia to pop back in. In the meantime, let me just quickly mention coming up in 2 weeks on Free Advice Friday, Hunter Peterson is going to join me on Free Advice Friday to do a YouTube Q&A. Hunter has previously worked with Mr. Beast. He runs several successful YouTube channels. He's also the voice of several successful YouTube channels, and I'm talking channels with millions of subscribers and tens of millions of views. And so this is a guy who knows a thing or two about LinkedIn about YouTube. And so very much looking forward to this. So mark your calendars for that one. That's October 20th. So 2 weeks from now, 1 o'clock Eastern. Hunter is going to be coming on to Free Advice Friday. And if you look on the YouTube channel right now, you'll see that the event has already been scheduled. You can click the notify button so you can get a reminder of that as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And of course, you'll get a notification for that as well. So that is coming up in 2 weeks on Free Advice Friday. Looking forward to that one. All right, let's see. Phil says, on LinkedIn, I heard that some casting directors are putting in their profile, if you are a voice actor, do not message me or send me a connection request. Are you also seeing this? Thoughts? So I can tell you that that is not something that I have ever seen directly, but I would also say that I'm generally not reaching out, for me personally anyway, I'm generally not reaching out directly to casting directors, and so that might be one of the reasons for it. My guess, though, is that they're getting overwhelmed by voice actors who are doing it, and probably by voice actors who aren't necessarily doing it the right way. I'm hitting all the wrong buttons here. When you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, remember that you shouldn't just be immediately going and trying to sell them something, right? And if you're just reaching out to casting directors and in your note, you're sending a message saying, by the way, I'm a voice actor and here are my demos and please consider me for future castings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's not necessarily the right way to do it. I think the other reason why that might be happening is because for a lot of casting directors, they're not often working directly with the talent. They're working through agents and agencies. And so they're not reaching out. They're not sending castings out and waiting for 200 voice actors to file back. They're sending castings to agents, and then the agents are collecting the auditions and sending them through. And so I think that might be part of it as well. But I think it's one of those things where you do your research ahead of time and always make sure that you're trying to reach out to the right person in the right way. Those websites that she mentioned were hunter.io and apollo.io. Yes, that is correct. .io as opposed to .com. That is correct. All right, Nadia has just jumped back in. So let's pull this up again and see.
Okay.
Oh, I hear you now.
I don't know what happened. Everything was going wrong, and it was just, anyway, technology, right? We're good.
Technology, whatever. But you're here now, and we can hear you, and so that's okay. Everything was going great, and then it just went, and then it just fizzled out, and it's like, okay, that's the sound that it makes when, sometimes when the internet goes bad, but your video was still fine, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I had an audio consultation with Jordan Reynolds, so I'll call him again because, I don't know, I thought we fixed this, but it's all right. We'll fix it.
We broke the internet. All right. Well, Nadia's back, so now we can carry on with our Free Advice Friday. Again, guys, welcome to the show. If you have questions about lead generation, that's specifically what we're here to talk about today. Whether it's finding leads, where to look for leads, how the process works, who to talk to, whatever, any kinds of questions that you may have around the subject of lead generation, feel free to ask those questions. You can type them into the comments, and we will certainly do our best to answer them. Again, if you're going to put a question in the comments, if you could just put a Q before you type your question, that way it's easier for me to see. In the meantime, while we're waiting for a question, let me just bring this up on the screen here. If you'd like to get connected with Nadia, there's a few different ways that you can do it. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. You can watch the famous opera sing swearing video on Nadia's TikTok channel. It's one of those legendary videos on the internet that people will be talking about for many, many years to come, I'm sure. And Nadia's course as well, blueprintcourseware.com. Blueprintcourseware.com is where you can find out more about her lead generation course. All right, let's go right back to the very, very, very basics. Still clouds. What is lead generation?
That's a big question. So lead generation is the act of, at least in terms of what we're talking about, it is the act of finding data, whether it be an email, a phone number, the name, the job title of the person that you would like to contact to establish a working relationship with, right? With the 3 tiers being lead, prospect, and client. So lead is typically someone that you've never had any contact with before. Usually it's a cold reaching out, and it is someone that you've never had a working relationship with before. They don't really know who you are, and you are establishing a relationship right off the bat. So that's a lead. Then you have a prospect, which is someone who is, maybe they're warming up to you a little bit. You've had a little bit of conversation, and now you have somewhat of a relationship, but maybe you haven't necessarily worked with each other yet, or there could be work on the horizon. So that's a prospect. And then, of course, you have your clients, which are your people who you have done at least one job for or several jobs for. You have an established working relationship, and they continue to use your services. You continue to serve them. That is typically what it is. So lead generation is, in my opinion, the act and the art of finding information to then contact someone to establish a working relationship.
We want voiceover jobs. We need to find people who are hiring voice actors, right? And it's just the journey of going through all of that. So Michael Kennedy says, top 3 titles you target when approaching a large company.
I think it depends on the genre, but I would say, let's say, for example, if I were to reach out to, say, a marketing agency or a very large company, I would actually be wary of contacting the CEO. They're already busy. They're probably not going to have any time for us. So believe it or not, do not contact them. I would probably say if there is some sort of way to work with a producer or a creative director, I would reach out to those people. Sometimes you might have somebody that could be like a creative lead, for example. That's also a really great person to talk to. But again, it depends on genre to genre, because that would work for, say, commercial, maybe documentary, maybe a handful of other possibly corporate things, not quite sure. But then if you're going to e-learning, that's not going to apply. Or if you are looking through video games, that's not going to apply. So you have to know, based on what genre specifically you are targeting, which job titles fit which genres. So I'm assuming, based on your question, probably you're going to be looking for commercial leads. So those would be my top 3. Would be producer, creative director, or creative lead.
I 100% agree with one. I'm going to make one small caveat, which is, generally speaking, I would never contact a CEO for exactly the reason that you said. Yeah. That being said, sometimes you will find smaller production companies who are trying to make themselves look larger. And so they have a founder and CEO, even though they may only have 2 or 3 employees, right? And so in that case, you might not have any choice. But I mean, since we specifically mentioned larger companies, definitely you got to come further down the food chain, because your email is just going to get lost in the inbox at that point. Brad says, Nadia, what CRM are you using?
I am using Nimble. That is the CRM I am currently using, and I like using Nimble. I find the clocks to be both helpful and very, very daunting, but they're a good way to keep you on track. So I like to use Nimble. I know some people really love to use HubSpot. I know some people really like to use Brad's voice overview as well. I would probably say those are the three I've heard the most about, but Nimble is the one that I'm most familiar with.
Yeah, I think one thing that you got to keep in mind when if you're going to go down this road of finding your own leads and doing all of your own direct marketing, having a system in place that is going to help you to keep that all organized is definitely key in order to make this work well. We were talking a bit earlier about casting directors. Well, you were getting rebooted here, but your comment about casting directors made me think: should you talent agents? I'm guessing, should you reach out to talent agents, or are there better people in each genre to search out? I'm guessing that's what the question is.
The little bit of what I have heard through conferences or even on podcasts when it comes to casting directors, every casting director is different, mind you. Every
Mhm.
casting director has their own likes, dislikes, preferences. So, I know it's a lot to be like, well, which one likes this one and which one likes this one? And you have to keep that in your head or a
Yep.
spreadsheet or something. I know it's a lot, but I would probably say I would be wary of contacting a casting director cold unless you have had some sort of relationship, whether it be on a workshop, whether it be at a conference, or whether it be a recent job or whatever. If there is a way that you have had some sort of discourse and conversation, then I think would be the only time to reach out to a casting director. Otherwise, if you do it cold, it's not necessarily the best practice. So I would look at each genre. There are probably job titles, and there are job titles for people that you should be reaching out to instead of the casting directors. Your agents, it's only how much room they have in their roster, or if you're what they're looking for. If they already have someone that sounds like you and they have 4 or 5 others that sound like you, they're probably not going to be interested, unfortunately, with your materials at this time. Doesn't mean never, just means at
Yep.
this time. So I would probably say avoid reaching out to casting directors cold unless you have established some sort of relationship with them or recently had a workshop or recently did a class, what have you. Otherwise, doing that is not in the best taste.
I agree. And I think that's part of what we were talking about earlier when you were getting rebooted. Was there was a comment made that certain casting directors are even posting rates straight on LinkedIn, saying, if you're a voice actor, do not reach out to me. And
Right.
uh, that may be very well part of the reason why that is happening, because of that. So again, welcome to Free Advice Friday. If you are joining us and watching live, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions of Nadia about voiceover lead generation. We're talking about how do we find the right people, how do we get connected, and all of that sort of fun stuff. So if there is a question that you would like to ask, feel free to type that question into the comments, and we'll certainly do our best to answer any of those questions for you as we work through this. Here's an interesting one from Christy. It says, any idea why I could be getting an access denied message on some of my emails? Message says 555.4.1, recipient address rejected, address denied. Is it due to my links in my email, or any thoughts? What is your technical internet background expertise there,
Ooh,
Nadia?
ooh. I don't. The only bit that I have is from probably from my dad, but he knows more than I would. I would probably say yes, it could be if you are physically attaching your demos to your email, it could be that they could have some sort of filter in their inbox that is pushing away emails like that, possibly thinking that they're spam.
Yep.
Or if it is a faulty email, it could be that as well. Sometimes I'll get like failed to send. I wouldn't necessarily get this exact message, but I would guess it would be one of the two. I don't fully know unless I could see it, see the example.
One of the things, I've had Brad Newman on the show before, and if you've never done it before, visit the website. It's mailchecktool.com. Mailchecktool.com. Or you can see here, that's just the short URL, but upperlevel.com. What does it say? /tools/checkmx. But mailchecktool.com. You can put in your name and your email address and who runs your email, and this will run a background check on a whole bunch of technical stuff that I don't know anything about, but it will let you know if there are any red flags on your email address or your email server that may
Mm.
be triggering it to be rejected for spam purposes or whatever. But I'm totally on board with Nadia. Sometimes it does have to do with links, or it has to do with attachments. Another thing that I would suggest when it comes to links is, if I'm going to get somebody to go to my website, I'll say go to my demos and listen to my website and I will actually type out markscottvoiceover.com, as opposed to saying you can listen to my demos here and then making the word here clickable. When that word here is clickable, that's what they call an embedded link, which is a hidden link, which may trigger for phishing. So when you type out the actual domain, sometimes that makes a difference. Not saying that's a be-all, end-all solution, but those are a couple of things that you can certainly try. All right, here's another interesting way of generating leads that sometimes we don't always think about, since we're always talking about how to find them on the internet. Michael says, have you ever gone to a Chamber of Commerce mixer?
I personally have not, but I have gone to a few in-person networking events. I would say, in terms of, well, every message is going to be different depending on what group of people you have. Like, let's say you go to a mixer and maybe it might be, a Chamber of Commerce versus maybe you'll have like a women in business summit or something to that effect. Your message might shift a little bit or it might be a little bit different. I would say, like any networking event, go in there first just to have a conversation, not necessarily to like exchange information and get work right off the bat, because they're going to smell that a mile away and be like, hoo, we're
Yep.
going to avoid that person. So I would probably say have your message, just be yourself. Maybe you will have a mutual interest, or you talk about, I don't know, some sort of drink that you both are drinking. And once they kind of get to know you, the topic is going to come up eventually of, oh, well, what do you do for a living? And then you
Yep.
can just lightly bring it into the conversation. But again, no need to really harp on it or give them your business card right off the bat. Just be yourself. Maybe say, oh, love to continue having a chat later towards the end of the evening or towards the end of the mix or whatever it is. Then you can give the business cards at that time. Otherwise, I think any time earlier than that would be a little too forward.
Chances are, if you walk into, any kind of in-person networking, at least the ones that I've found, and somebody asks you what you do and you say a voice actor, they're interested immediately, because
Right.
it's not a traditional thing. You don't encounter that every single day. And so it does give you a really good opportunity to start a conversation. Here's a comment from Kay. It says, I've gone to a Chamber of Commerce mixer and I think it was totally worth it just to talk to people. And I do plan on going again. And that's the thing about, I think one of the things that people need to understand about lead generation is sometimes I think we do limit it to like a Google search, right? It's
Right.
it's a Google search and what comes up. But lead generation is literally, there's a thousand different ways that you could do it. It could be a Google search, it could be mining social media, it could be attending a chamber event, it could be sending postcards in the mail, it could be offering a free download on your website and getting people to give their email to sign up. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do lead generation. Here's a question from Geraldine. It says, okay, so does lead generation work better, guarantees more work for those who already have established relationships with CDs, casting directors, and producers than for those who do not? So I think, one of the things I would want to clarify here, yes, we've been talking specifically about casting directors, but lead generation itself is not limited to casting directors, right? So there's a
Right.
very large pool to draw from.
Extremely large pool. Yes. So I think, we're seeing uh depending on what genre again that you are looking through. I don't think you have to have an established relationship with someone in order to really have an uh effective generation of a lead. I think if you if you have a very good way to reach out to someone, you have an email that is concise, that gets to the point, that doesn't prattle on about, all the marvelous things that you do, which is wonderful, but keep that for another conversation.
Yep.
I would say you don't have to have an established relationship in order to have effective generation of a lead. No. Mm-mm.
So let's expand the definition here a little bit so that that people understand. I mean, for me, I'm literally a lead for me is pretty much anybody, period, who would potentially benefit from my voiceover services. So we could be talking about a casting director, of course. We could be talking about an agent, some of those traditional forms. But we could be talking about the lawyer's office down the street who could use an on hold message, or the local top 5 selling realtor who is creating virtual tour videos, or a production company who is creating commercials or videos. And so to expand the definition and understanding of what we're talking about here, lead generation, walk us through some of those other things that we might want to be looking at. Like, things like some of the examples that I just gave. What are some other examples of where we could be looking, and what is a lead?
Right. So lead generation, like you said earlier, can be anywhere. It can be in your own backyard.
Mhm.
It could be, you come across a company and you really vibe with their brand, their message, and you want to establish yourself as the person to be the spokesperson or to be the voice of their brand. Maybe it could be a starter tea company and you really love their tea, you believe in their tea, and you want to be the voice of their tea. I'm not sure. You meet them at a farmer's market and you establish a relationship. Or you are reaching out on, let's say you go to a conference, and even if it's a voiceover conference or not necessarily a voiceover conference, and you strike a conversation with someone who happens to be in e-learning, and there's a potential lead. It could be someone who is uh, a learning designer. It could be someone who develops kids books for schools, and then you can establish a relationship and then be able to have a lead. So a lead can really be in any, there's so many genres of voiceover and even subgenres within those bigger genres that it
And then
can be
subgenres to the subgenres.
right. It can be quite a detailed and quite a very large question. But I'd say there are so many ways that you can find leads, but I think once you get more specific on, I want to get to this genre and then this subgenre and then this, and then I want to target this city and I want to target, these particular kind of people, then you can start to see, a list that starts to form rather than this overwhelming kind of, okay, well, I have the entire world at my fingertips and that's
Yes.
wonderful, but also terrifying because I have no idea where to start. So I think it is helpful to start to narrow down your search parameters as to what
Yep.
exactly you're looking for. And it could be a producer, it could be a video game developer, it could be someone who creates animation, and you establish a relationship with them early, and then all of a sudden they get this really amazing gig where they animate for a kids TV show and they absolutely loved working with you that one time in 2019, that they hire you again in 2025 and it's a big show.
Yep.
You never know. These relationships can be really rewarding if you keep at it. But I think talking about lead generation specifically, it helps to keep it more of a narrow parameter to be able to find exactly what you're looking for, because that is quite a broad question in the sense of there are so many genres to choose from and there's so many people that could be buying your voice specifically. So it helps to get more specific, whether it is through a job title, whether it is geographically, whether it is through a keyword, and using that to really narrow down and get specific.
I think for me, it starts with my demos, right? What demos do I have available to me? And so then the question is, okay, so let's just say you got a commercial demo, you got a corporate narration demo, you got an e-learning demo, and you got an animation demo. Okay, so those are the 4 demos that you have to work with. So who can I contact that is going to produce commercials? Who can I contact that is going to produce corporate videos? Who can I contact that is going to produce e-learning? Who can I contact that's going to produce animation? And so you start to build your lead generation strategy around those demos that you have available to you, and figuring out who the people are that are going to benefit from that particular service or that particular genre. And when you think about it that way, and then using some of the other tips like Nadia mentioned, narrowing it down geographically can be really helpful too. Cliff Zellman talks about drawing a circle on a map or putting a pin, and rather than looking at like the United States as a whole, which can feel very overwhelming. What if you started in your city or in your region and then expanded out to your state or something like that? And so there are some other ways that you can look at it to narrow it down so it's not quite so overwhelming. But I definitely think that it starts with the demos you have available to you. Here's a question from Holly. It says, once you've connected with someone via email and they accept you to their roster, when and how should you follow up with them?
I'm not sure if this is more of a you question mark, because I mean, I can answer it like I know you would answer it, but I'm not sure. Um, I would say if you'd like, you can email them a week after and just be like, "Hey, thank you so much for sending the roster information or the roster sign up sheet." Or they already have received your information. So then I would just email them whenever you want to, send them a quarterly update, or let them know, hey, I'm out of town for this holiday. Here's when I'm back in the studio. Or, hey, I'm attending this conference. Or, here's my newest demo that is applicable to them. Don't just send them a random demo.
Yep.
Keep it applicable. But if they already have your information, you've already moved a step forward in that direction. So just keeping them updated as to what you're up to, keeping them informed if you are going to be out of town, because maybe they might contact you when you are out of town, or before you go out of town, because that is the surest way to get work, is let them know when you're on vacation.
Yes, absolutely. Always. I love this comment from Kay because this is a really great example of what we're talking about, in that leads are literally anywhere. I made a connection in a watercolor painting class through our county recreation center, and she connected me to someone else. Now I host trivia nights for him. And I think that's the other important thing to think about here is leads are literally everywhere, and you never know who the people that you connect with are connected with, right? Sometimes it's not always going to come directly. Sometimes it is going to be a referral, right? You connected with somebody who passed your name to somebody else, or had a conversation with somebody who took your business card and handed it to somebody else, or whatever. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the strangest places or most unexpected places that you have found leads, or that you look for leads? Do you have any good stories to share?
Cool. Yeah, so okay, where I look for leads and where I've received leads. All right, those are two different scenarios. But okay, I will say the strangest place that I think people forget about that you can find leads is Source Connect.
I got a very,
People
very
forget
large directory.
there's a huge directory, and you could see a map, and you can be able to target wherever you need to. But Source Connect, it kind of feeds two birds with one hand, in the sense that you're showing the people you're connecting to that you have Source Connect and you are a pro, and then also you just immediately get their information. So it's
Yep.
kind of a win-win.
Yep.
So I'd say
Good
Source
tip.
Connect, big tip. I do go into that a little more in the course. I would say awards. You will see whenever you go to some sort of lead, especially if they're an e-learning lead, they're going to have some sort of award that merits them as like best e-learning company, or best staff onboarding, or whatever it is for a certain year.
Yep.
Take a note of that award name and go find it. Go do a reverse search. Find that, and then you can probably find other leads that have won in other years, or have been nominated, or however big or small you want to go. You could even look in your local area, since we're talking about local leads. You can look at who are the top 40 local businesses in your area. I'm sure at least one or two of them are going to need a voice actor at some point, and
Yep.
you can reach out to them there. The weirdest place I have received a lead. Wow. Well, actually, this isn't necessarily voice acting related, but it is a lead in a sense. A friend of mine from tango class found out about the Columbus Italian Festival, which is happening this weekend, but she found out about it, maybe it was like May or June, and she emailed them herself. She goes, my friend's a operatic soprano. Do you need one for the festival? Here's her information. And she just sent it over. So you
Sometimes
never
that's the best
know.
way, right? When it comes from somebody else. But
Yeah.
I think the one that I always talk about is traveling to conferences, which, thankful that I finally get to start doing again after a couple of years of not being able to do it. But it was riding in the airport shuttle from the hotel to the airport, or vice versa, in some of the different cities that I've been in, and just making a note of all of the buildings and the names that are on all of the buildings, so that I can go back later and look them up and see whether or not there's potential there, right? Whether or not somebody might actually be able to use me, if it's a large company that maybe does some internal videos or e-learnings or something like that. And so I think a big part of it is mindset and just recognizing that there's potential opportunity everywhere if you just keep yourself open to all of those potential opportunities that literally exist everywhere. So again, guys, welcome to Free Advice Friday. If you're enjoying the broadcast so far, if you're picking up some helpful tips, could you do me a favor and hit that like button? And thank you so much for joining the broadcast, for hitting the like button. Make sure you subscribe so you can get notified about upcoming live streams as well. And we're going to keep going on with questions too. So if you do have a question about lead generation that you would like to ask and get answered, you can type your question into the comments, put a Q beside it, and it will pop out a little bit easier for me. And I will be able to bring that up on the screen, and we'll get some questions answered. So don't be shy if you've got questions that you would like to ask. Here's one from Michael Kennedy. To what degree do you market internationally?
I would say quite a lot of my lead generation is consists of international leads because again, I think there was an earlier question of sort of, if you have a unique voice or if you have a unique style and you know your niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
It applies for myself specifically, for my niche and what I can do. It makes sense for me to reach out to a lot of international clients. I use lots of different accents when I do voiceover work. I also have quite a bit of language training. So I find that if I do reach out to a lot of people, specifically in Europe, specifically in, even a little bit of Asia, a little bit of, wherever it may be, but I do tend to market quite a bit internationally. Some of the clients, I shouldn't say best clients because all my clients are wonderful, but I should probably say, let's change the words here.
This is on
But
the internet now,
this is on the internet. So if some of the clients that maybe, let's say, tend to pay you on time, or they pay you very nicely for certain jobs and you have established a very nice relationship with them, then maybe I'll take note of like, okay, I really like this client that happens to be from, let's say, Germany, for
Yep.
example. Then maybe I will say, all right, well, I really like my German client, my one that I have right now, let's say, for example, then maybe let's try and find at least 5 or 6 more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can then be able to, based on previous data or based on future data, whatever, what have you. But I do tend to market quite a bit internationally myself. But again, that is my niche and that fits me. There are some things that I haven't felt comfortable reaching out to because I don't feel like that fits my niche. Then again, never say never.
Yep.
There could be a potentially wonderful client that I haven't reached out to that's in a country I haven't even started looking at. So the whole world is at your fingertips, which is, again, terrifying. But think of it like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Like, where in the world is your lead? Because you got to
That was
look
my
for it.
favorite show when I was younger. I
So
played
good. I
that
love
game. I had
computer
like
games.
7 different
Oh,
Carmen Sandiego games on my Commodore 64. That's how old I am.
whoa.
Back in the day. There's 2 things that I want to point out. One thing that you said was the idea of like replicating or duplicating, right? And I think that's something that we don't do enough of. We get clients that we love working with, but we've never actually sat down and thought, how do I find 10 more of this particular client? And what is it? Look at the genre, look at the job title, look at the type of work, and how do you go out and find 10 more people who are doing exactly that thing? And so that idea of replication or duplication, I think, is really important. And I would say, just to add to the international thing, I tell voice actors all the time, your target market is anywhere in the world where your language is spoken. Now, that doesn't specifically mean that you want to work everywhere or that you can work everywhere. You have to be aware of rates vary from country to country, tax laws potentially varying from country to country, etc. But expectations, vary from country to country. But I mean, to Nadia's point, I've got amazing clients that I've worked with in Spain, in Germany, in France, in Italy, in the UK, in Australia, in Dubai, and that all came because I was willing to look outside of some of the traditional places. And sometimes I do think that we limit ourselves a little bit too much in just focusing on the local market or our state or our region or, just within the United States or Canada or whatever. But yeah, really anywhere in the world where your language is spoken, there are potential opportunities that are out there for you. Again, guys, if you've got a question that you would like to ask, please don't be shy. Let's talk lead generation and help you to find more voiceover leads. Obviously, more voiceover leads equals more potential opportunities equals more potential earnings, and that is what we are all looking for at the end of the day, or at least I assume that's, maybe I shouldn't say that, but I assume that's what we are all looking for at the end of the day, is the ability to generate more business for ourselves and make a little bit of extra money. Just want to take a minute to say, if you haven't had a chance to listen to the latest episode of the podcast, Hunter Peterson really does give a masterclass in how to use YouTube, not only for your voiceover marketing, but also for potentially turning it into a secondary income stream. And so he dives deeply into it. Hunter has a great deal of experience in YouTube. He has worked with Mr. Beast, who most people are familiar with Mr. Beast. He's also the voice of several very popular YouTube channels with literally millions of subscribers and tens of millions of views. So that new episode of the podcast is available now on the YouTube channel. You can look for it there, or also wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts, including VOpreneur.com. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And then just a follow-up reminder to that Hunter is going to be joining me on Free Advice Friday in 2 weeks. And so we will be taking your questions on YouTube. So make sure that you mark your calendars for that one. Again, if you subscribe to the channel, you will be able to get notified when we go live for that one. But that is October 20th, 1 o'clock Eastern. All right, Nadia, let's do some rapid fire. Ready? I want to do explainer videos. I got a brand new shiny explainer video demo, and I need to get some explainer video leads. Give me a couple of pro tips for where I'm going to find explainer video.
Explainer video, I'd probably say a lot of explainer companies are very, very active, particularly on Instagram as well as Facebook. Some may use X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it now. But I'd probably say Instagram and Facebook tend to be the most popular. But I would say, if you have not, go ahead and take a look. Also, there are some ways with the Google search that you can be able to pull up some of these more like larger lists of explainer companies.
Directories.
I would look for that too. Yes.
Okay.
So directories for that, or I would probably say go ahead and mine on Facebook or Instagram.
What are a couple job titles we might be looking for?
For explainer videos, it might be some of the same things we mentioned earlier. It could be another creative director. It could be another producer. Typically, explainer videos, they're probably going to be doing some sort of thing where it is going to be more of a video production company of some sort. So it's probably going to be along those lines.
Okay. Let's do animation. Give us a couple of tips for animation.
All right. Animation's a little bit different. So animation, they're going to be very, very popular on X, Twitter. But then they may also be quite popular on Instagram, and believe it or not, some of them are delving into TikTok. So go ahead and take a look at those for social media purposes. I would also say, you were mentioning specifically with Hunter, with YouTube. People forget YouTube and Vimeo are also fantastic ways to find leads. There are ways that you can utilize the search filter options on both of those platforms to be able to find people. You could probably find animation studios very, very much so on YouTube and on Vimeo. Again, I do a very deep dive onto how to utilize both of them and their search filter options in the course. But you can play around on your own and be able to find some things, whether they are indie level to very, very high level, almost A-level listing of people. So I would probably say that for animation studio titles, I'd probably say like character design. I'd be a little wary of that only because, they might be too busy, but you might have some sort of producer as well. Again, producer or creative director would be my guess.
Okay. One that I will throw into the mix on animation. Every streaming platform now, and there are 500 frigging streaming platforms. Remember when it was supposed to make life easier and cheaper than having a cable package, but now you've got 375 different streaming platforms. Anyway, every single one of these streaming platforms now, for the most part, is trying to create unique, original content. And very often kids programming is a part of that, because if you can get kids to watch, then you can get parents to sign up, which means there's a lot of animated content, unique, original animated content that is getting created on a lot of these streaming platforms. And that is something that you could find either through being a subscriber to the streaming platform and just paying attention to all of the shows that are on there, and then watch the credits or deep dive into IMDb. and
Yeah.
figure out who the companies are behind some of these. So there's a lot of different things. All right, let's do one more. Everybody's got a commercial demo, so let's give us a couple of pro tips for commercial.
Commercial, there's nothing wrong with going through a very, very uh, specific Google search, whether you do use Boolean operators to kind of make sure that you can really narrow it down. So I would probably say you can definitely come up with tons of directories. I even list some directories in the course to really look for commercial. I would also say they're very, very active on Instagram as well as Facebook. But for commercial, probably it helps to either look at, you do have your agents and your casting directors that also are finding work through there. But again, we're focusing just on how we can find it ourselves.
Mhm.
I would say, you're probably going to look at creative directory, probably going to look at some sort of creative lead. You're probably going to look at some sort of executive producer of some sort, because they do kind of fit along those lines. But you can definitely find directories very, very easily on Google. You can be able to find some on LinkedIn, no problem. So that would probably be where I would look.
Okay. Here's one from Holly. What should I look for K through 12 e-learning?
So I would say if there is some sort of way that you can find at least one company, go look at any of the awards that they have won, and then reverse search and look through all of the awards that anyone has ever, or that particular award, who has won it throughout all the years, and go ahead and take a look that way. I would also say, if there is some sort of way that you could find, again, with that one lead, see if they produced any sort of, whether it is an animated show, whether it is some sort of computer game or some mobile app or something to that effect. See who is the producer for that. See who is creating that sort of. You would probably maybe be able to find. You could be able to find some sort of these learning designers, but see if they are very passionate about kids and then be able to kind of tap into that as well. But I would probably say LinkedIn, you can easily find through, if you could find one on a Google search, look through their awards and then reverse search and find who else has won that award in other years.
Okay. So you've mentioned the course. Time flies when we're having fun. We've got a couple of minutes left here before we wrap this up. Tell us a little bit about the course, what is involved, what you're going to teach us, and how we can find it if we're interested in learning more or signing up.
Sure. So this is an online course that you will have lifetime access to. And it does have currently at the moment 6 modules. More will be added as time goes on. But with each module, you get a deep dive into, like, the first big one is Google search. So you will get a deep dive into Boolean operators and even advanced ones that, unless you've done pretty extensive research within academia, you may not be as familiar with these. So these can really help to define it even more, be able to find directories and that kind of thing, and how you can utilize each search parameter. All of the social media platforms, we do have one that's dedicated just to LinkedIn specifically. And, then you can really utilize all that LinkedIn has to offer. And I do use the free version. I do not use the paid version. So
Yeah,
there is
me
that.
too.
With social media, I do go into Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, Twitter X, and TikTok. And I do say that even with those, if you are wary of a few of those platforms, I understand with TikTok still, I get it, that you don't necessarily have to have a platform or have a profile, let's say, to be able to utilize the platform and be able to search it. And then I do go into some unconventional methods, like we mentioned before, Source Connect, like looking via conferences, like looking via awards, and some other ones. And then I have a final one that goes into Apollo.io and Hunter.io and all the features that they have to offer. So it is available on blueprintcourseware.com, which is where Mark is right now. And you can be able to buy the full course, which has all 6 modules. I also have some bonus content that is available. But if you're a little bit unsure as to whether you want to get the course right off the bat, you could even get some of my ebooks. I do have job titles for VO specific genres, or I have hashtags for VO specific genres as well for those ebooks. And we can get started. But yes, the course is currently at the moment 6 modules. I'm going to be adding 1 or 2 more probably in the next few months. But that is what you'll be learning in the course. And it is on Kajabi. So
There you go. So blueprintcourseware.com is the website, blueprintcourseware.com. Make sure you check that out. At the very least, go get those free PDFs that she's offering because there's a ton of value in there. Here's some other ways that you can connect with Nadia via social media as well: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. Those are all there. Nadia, this has been fantastic. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and share some of your knowledge and help us out a little bit with the lead generation side of voiceover, because it is one of the things that we struggle with the most, but it is also one of the things that is most important to us in being able to grow our business. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for dealing with technology mishaps. But anyway, we managed to get everything in. So
Right.
perfect.
All right, on. Thank you so much. So again, the website, blueprintcourseware.com, blueprintcourseware.com. There it is right there under her name, blueprintcourseware.com, if you're interested in checking it out. And again, mark your calendars for Free Advice Friday, October 20th. 2 weeks from now, there will not be a Free Advice Friday next week. I've got family coming to visit, probably going to be smoking a brisket. But 2 weeks from now, October 20th, Hunter is going to be here, and we are going to be talking all about YouTube. Don't forget upcoming episodes of the podcast as well. There's some good stuff there. Hunter's YouTube episode came out this week. Next week, Chris McCann, from food stamps to six-figure voiceover. This is a very impactful story, an inspiring story. Bev Standing and I recorded an amazing interview together all about AI. That episode is going to be coming out on the 19th of October. And I'm going to be having Christina Malizia on the show to talk all about animation as well. So some good stuff coming to the podcast. Remember, you can check that out wherever fine podcasts are given away for free, or right here on the YouTube channel. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Nadia, thank you so much for your time. Whatever you decide to do this weekend, as always, have fun, stay safe, and go find some leads.